And we are back with my predictions for the upcoming Premier League season. A season which I truly believe is going to be the most interesting we've had in the modern era, both up and down the table. I can see it being very close for all positions at their given points. And for the purposes of my predictions today, I'm splitting the table up into 4 sections. We're going to have the battle for survival, distinctly mid-table, the fight for Europe, and of course, the race for the title. Now, before we go into it, like I said, I think this is going to be a really close season, but this is how I feel it's going to get divided up. I can't see the teams changing from these sort of areas, but maybe we'll see some differences between the actual positions themselves. So without any further ado, let's just get straight into it with the battle for survival. Now, I can see this coming down to 5 teams. I think all 3 promoted clubs are going to be in here, as well as 2 current Premier League teams that I think are really going to struggle to keep themselves afloat this year. But who knows? We'll see. Let's get straight into it. With 20th place, Watford. Now, I just look at this Watford squad and I just don't see Premier League quality in this squad. The players they've brought in, Josh King, Kutka, both players that have been relegated themselves in their countries in recent years. King with Bournemouth and then failing at Everton, and Kutka getting relegated with Parma. You just look around the other players in that squad, they're just not Premier League quality. And even though they did well to get themselves promoted after an immediate relegation, I just can't see anything for them other than heading straight back down. And speaking of heading straight back down, 19th, I've gone for Brentford. I've heard a lot of people saying that Brentford are going to shock a few people this year, and maybe I'm wrong for putting them here, but 2 weeks ago I saw a full Brentford first team struggle to scrape a 2-2 draw against a Manchester United team made up of third choice options and youth team players. And if Brentford go at this season with that level of quality, then they're not going to last very long. Is Ivan Toney going to score some goals? I'm sure he will. If he doesn't, then I'd put them too high at 19th. But I personally don't see Brentford being the surprise package that other people do. I may be wrong. For their sake, I hope I'm wrong. But for me, 19th is a fair reflection of where Brentford are realistically going to achieve this season. Now, for 18th, this is where I'm going to put the only current Premier League team that is, in my opinion, going down this year, and that is going to be Southampton. I've dilly-dallied with Southampton on this spot over the last week or so. I originally had them in when they sold Danny Ings. Then I put them back out of the relegation zone with the new signings of Armstrong and Brugge from Chelsea. But after the sale of Yannick Vestergaard to Leicester last night, and it looking increasingly more likely that James Ward-Prowse either moves to Villa or Tottenham, I just can't see Southampton surviving with the players that they've got. And if you're a betting man, I'd probably have Ralph Hasenhüttl as the first manager getting sacked this season. I just don't see it being a good season for Southampton. Again, like with the other 2, their squad is looking more and more like a championship side already. And if they lose James Ward-Prowse, then I think it's just about over for them. Hanging in at 17th, I have another current or former Premier League club, depending on which way you want to look at it, and that is Burnley. And the only reason I have Burnley staying up is because of Sean Dyche once again. He seems to have this formula of keeping them alive even when they really shouldn't. Again, look at their squad. You wouldn't say it's a Premier League squad. The back line's okay with Pope, me and Tarkowski. I really rate Dwight McNeil, and I'm surprised he's not managed to get a move away this season, but who knows the future for him. And they have to keep Chris Wood fit. He's coming back from the Olympics, and it could be unlikely that he plays the first weekend of the season. So it could be a rough start for Burnley, one that could see them really struggle this year. But I have faith that Sean Dyche will do the job that he's always done, and they'll just about keep them afloat. But if I'm wrong about Brentford and I'm wrong about the Southampton signings, it might finally be time up for Burnley. Finally, as I've already spoken, that I think all three promoted clubs are going to be in trouble this year. At 16th, I've gone for Norwich. I think Daniel Farke's done a decent job in the transfer market this summer. He's learnt from the mistakes of 2 years ago where he just took his championship team into the Premiership and went, we play a certain brand of football. We think we're capable of keeping ourselves up with that alone, and it just didn't work. The same worry I have for Brentford this year. And he's gone out and signed some really good players, in my opinion. They've lost one of their two talismanic players in Buendia to Aston Villa, but as at this moment in time, they've managed to keep hold of Todd Cantwell, and they've signed Rashika and John Sargent from Werder Bremen, arguably their two best players. They've signed Billy Gilmore on loan from Chelsea, which I think is a fantastic signing for keeping them in the Premiership. Lees Malou from Nice will improve their midfield, and Ben Gibson looks like he's finally going to get his chance at a regular first team spot in the Premier League. And in my opinion, they'll just about do enough. They have a really rough set of opening fixtures, which will, in my opinion, see them in the relegation zone in the early parts of the season. But I think they've just about got enough quality to survive, certainly more than the teams that I've put below them. Moving into distinctly mid-table. Now, the reason I've called it distinctly mid-table is I think these teams will be too good to be in the scrap for survival. But at the same time, none of these teams are going to be threatening any of the European places this season. So, for me, they are just distinctly mid-table. And starting with 15th, I have gone for Crystal Palace. The loss of Roy Hodgson is massive for Crystal Palace, in my opinion, and there were points that I was tempted to put them in the battle for survival, but a bit like the old Southampton team where Matt Letizia just kept Southampton up year after year after year after year, I think Wilfried Zaha will be enough. When Ebrieze is fit again, he will certainly add that same level of quality to their team, but he is out till Christmas, so it could be another team that you see quite low down for the large parts of this season. Will Patrick Vieira be the right man for the job? Again, I'm not sure. His managerial record, wherever he's been, is not great. And they've lost a lot of key players in defence. Scott Dan, Gary Cahill, Patrick Van Arnholt. They've brought in Anderson, but, I mean, let's be honest, his only Premier League experience is getting relegated with Fulham. So, yeah, I can't see them finishing any higher than 15th. If they're not careful, they'll definitely be in the battle for survival with the teams I've put below them. But I think they've just about got enough quality to keep them in the mid-table area. So for me, Crystal Palace, 15th. 14th, I've gone for Wolves, which could be a bit low. But again, I'm playing it on the side of new manager. I don't think this guy's got the same level of ability that Nuno has as a manager. They've lost their goalkeeper, with their replacement being someone who has never really threatened the Portuguese national spot over Patricio, so I can't see him being any better than him in the Premier League. What's the state of Raul Jimenez? We don't know. He scored in pre-season, but after a serious injury, especially a head injury, you never really see players hit the heights that they previously had. And they've got Neto and Podence out for a long part of the start of this season. And it looks like Ruben Neves is touting a lot of interest from Manchester United. So if they lose him as well, 14th may be too high for Wolves. I just don't see it being a good year for them. They have some quality, but I don't know. I just think there is too little on offer in that squad right now. They need to really improve their squad in the last couple of weeks of the transfer window, in my opinion, to finish any higher than 14th. So for me, that's where I'm putting them. 13th, I've gone for Brighton, and from this point on, you're going to probably hear me say this a lot, but I would have liked to put Brighton higher. But for now, I just think this is the limit of what they've got. I really rate Graham Potter. I have a lot of time for Graham Potter as a manager. And right now, he would be my replacement for Gareth Southgate as England manager whenever Southgate decides to leave or he gets sacked. I love their style of play, the expansive 3-4-3. What is, in my opinion, the best formation in modern day football right now. They've lost Ben White to Arsenal, but they'd already signed cover for him in Veltman last summer, or last January, and he looks like he's been a really good signing for them. They've not used a lot of the money that they've got in for Ben White yet, so maybe they'll sign another centre-back of some quality that'll improve them there. I really like their midfield signing, Beku or something like that. He'll play in the midfield with Basuma. I think that's a fantastic midfield partnership. That'll cause some problems for midfields that I don't think people are expecting. The only issue I have with Brighton is the goals. Mope doesn't score enough. Welbeck's permanently injured. I like Trossard. I like Lallana. But I'm surprised they've not gone in for a striker yet, especially with that Ben White money. They get in a striker that can score 15 to 20 goals this season, then 13th will be the lowest they'll finish. I really believe that. I think you could be in for a good season for Brighton. But for now, I'm playing it safe, and I think 13th is realistic for them. 12th, I've gone for Newcastle, and I know there's going to be a lot of people thinking, wow, that's really high for Newcastle. But I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people sleeping on Newcastle right now. The biggest problem for them will be injuries again. Right now, it looks like everyone's fit. Wilson's fit. Saint-Maximin's fit. All the defenders are fit. Almiron's fit. And if they can keep those players fit and they can get the signing of Joe Willock sorted, looks like that's run into a few issues, and I can understand that. It's probably demanding more money after his 7 goals in 7 games at the end of last season. But if they can get that in and have that front four of Wilson, Saint-Maximin, Willock and Almiron, I think they're going to be a real problem for defences this year. And I think 12th is a very realistic position for them to finish. Maybe a few defensive frailties, but again, you keep Shah fit, you keep Lascelles fit, and keep the rest of their players fit. 12th is a good fit for them. Don't see them being in any trouble this season at all, but at the same time, like I say, I don't see them challenging for Europe at all. So distinctly mid-table, 12th place is the right fit for Newcastle for me. And the last team for mid-table, I have gone for West Ham. They are going to be the team that suffers with Europe the most this year. They have a very, very thin squad at the moment. 2 quality goalkeepers. They've signed Areola. But you look at the rest of that squad and they lose any players. The backups are not great at all. I cannot believe they've not signed a striker yet. They've really not backed David Moyes in this window. I've seen a takeover bid from the Ferdinands that's been rejected. I think West Ham really need something like that to happen for them if they've got any chance of challenging for Europe again this year. If Antonio picks up a knock, they just don't have another striker. I am amazed they've not made use of the Ukrainian partnership that Yarmolenko had with Uramchuk at the Euros. I think Uramchuk would be a great fit for West Ham, but it's not happened yet. Their squad is weak, and fighting on 2 fronts could see, I think 11th is generous, like fighting on 2 fronts in Europe and in the Premier League with that smaller squad. If it goes wrong for them and they start picking up those injuries, they could be as low down as 15th, 16th, and maybe in the scrap for relegation as well. But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because of how well they did last season, and in 11th place, I'm going for West Ham. Now, the fight for Europe, I believe all of these teams are capable of finishing 5th, but they are not touching the Champions League places. I think everyone knows what the top 4 will be, but obviously my order will be revealed later on. But all of these teams, I think, if they get their seasons right, will have a more than good chance of finishing in the Europa League places or the Europa Conference spot, which I've highlighted in green. And that is going to start with 10th place, Leeds United. The Professor, Marcelo Bielsa, has this bonkers way of having Leeds playing. I mean, who doesn't enjoy watching Leeds United play? It's crazy when they play. And I think if they get it right again, which Bielsa normally does, I really think they have a chance of challenging for Europe. But I think the quality in player of the teams above them are just a little bit too much. We'll see. They had Manchester United first game of the season at Old Trafford. Last year it was 6-2. Could it be 6-2 again? Maybe. But for now, I think 10th place is the right fit for Leeds. They could do with a couple more players. I don't think Patrick Bamford's good enough to take them to Europe. I could see them, well, I would sign a new, more prolific striker than Patrick Bamford if I was the Leeds manager. But who am I to argue with the professor? For now, 10th place for Leeds. In 9th, I've gone for Everton. I think that's arguably a bit generous. I don't know if Rafa Benitez is the right man for them. It looks like they're going to be going into the season either with no recognised striker or a Richarlison that has literally played non-stop since the start of last season. He's played every game at the Copa America, straight into every game at the Olympics, and he's in the final of both of those. He's not had any rest. So will they chuck him in first game of the season? If they do, I think it's a gamble for his fitness. But it looks like Calvert-Lewin's going to be out for the first few weeks, and Moise Keane's down with COVID and could be leaving. So it could be a rough start for Everton. They have some good fixtures, but it looks like James is leaving. Sigurdsson's got his own issues. They've signed Andros Townsend and Damari Gray, but are they really European quality players? I'm not so sure. The all-round squad ability is why I have them in 9th, and Rafa Benitez, I have to give him his due. He is a good manager, but I think, as I said, I think 9th could be a bit generous for Everton. But for now, I'll leave them there. I've gone for Arsenal in 8th. Again, it's a team that I would like to put higher, but my issue I have with Arsenal is a real lack of leadership. Everyone goes on about the old Arsenal teams with Vieira and Adams and Keown, Campbell, Henry, Gilberto Silva, all these natural leaders on the pitch. And for the last 10 years, Arsenal just haven't had leadership. The signing of Ben White could change that. I've seen a couple of Arsenal's pre-season games. He's looked good. Is he a leader? We'll wait and see. Vincent Kompany has sent Sambi Lokonda to Arsenal. He seems to think that he is a big leader, and he was the Anderlecht captain under Kompany. So maybe that'll make the difference. The other benefit that Arsenal have is they are not in Europe this year, whereas two of the teams above them will be. And if they get caught up in the Thursday night, Saturday night, Sunday night struggles, and Arsenal can get that leadership and core strength together, I can see them finishing higher than 8th, but I'm being realistic from what I've seen of Arsenal over last season and the couple of games I've watched them in pre-season. And for now, I think 8th is a more realistic finish, even though I do believe they can finish higher. For the second season in a row, I'm putting Tottenham in the Europa Conference spot. They have been the hardest team for me to place, but as I'm recording this, the day before the start of the season, Harry Kane is still a Tottenham player, so I'm making this prediction assuming that Harry Kane stays. If Harry Kane leaves, I don't see Tottenham finishing any higher than maybe 9th or 10th. Nuno, as I mentioned in the Wolves section, is a good manager. I'm not sure he's the right fit for Tottenham. He's got them playing in a 4-4-2 now this year. Looks like it's going to be Son and Kane up front. Links with Lautaro Martinez. It's tough. I think the game this weekend against Manchester City is the biggest game in Tottenham's history since the Champions League final against Liverpool. If this game goes wrong for Tottenham, that whole season could be derailed immediately. If they lose 2 or 3 goals to Man City, I see Harry Kane handed in a transfer request. And then the dressing room falls apart, and we've seen it time and time and time again. And Tottenham will not do anything this season because they will just implode. The game against Man City is absolutely critical to their situation this year. Not only that, they've got the Europa Conference as well. If I'm Nuno, I would treat that competition with absolutely no respect whatsoever. Play the kids. If you get through, great. If you get knocked out, you don't have to worry about it anymore. 7th is fair, in my opinion. They have a good squad, but it's a squad on the brink of disaster. And for now, I can't see Tottenham finishing any higher than 7th. 6th place, I've gone for my surprise package. Over the last few years, we've always had a surprise package. We had Burnley a few years ago, Sheffield United, Wolves. Last year, it was West Ham. There's always one team that does way better than everyone expects. And I think this year it's going to be Aston Villa. In my opinion, they've had the best transfer window of anyone else. If you'd have offered an Aston Villa fan 2 months ago 100 million for Jack Grealish, and you signed Danny Ings, Leon Bailey, Buendia, Ashley Young and Twanzebe, I think they'd have bit your hand off. And they've still got money left over. They look like they could be going in for Ward-Prowse again. Maybe another defender. But I look at that Aston Villa squad right now, and as an Aston Villa fan, I'd be very, very excited. I think they are the team to watch this year. They look dangerous in pre-season. They're scoring goals for fun. And they have 3 very good opening fixtures, which could see them at the top of the Premier League after the first 3 weeks. If it goes right for them, I think they'll stay there. If those players gel, I think they'll stay there and could even challenge 5th. I can't see them. Like I said, I don't see any of these teams challenging the top 4. But who knows? They get it right. Maybe they will. 5th place, I've gone for the team of 5th place, Leicester City. Another great transfer window for them. Samare's in. Ryan Bertrand on a free. Vestergaard coming in from Southampton. Daka coming in as the long-term replacement for Jamie Vardy. I don't know if it's Brendan Rodgers. I don't know if it's the scouts or the businessmen. Whoever's running the transfer side of Leicester City just has it so good right now. But I still don't see it being enough to challenge that top 4 spot. They are more than capable of beating the top 4 teams. They already have beaten Man City in the Community Shield this year. But over the course of a long season, I don't see it happening. If they keep their core 3 of Maddison, Tielemans and Ndidi in that midfield, you keep those 3 fit and playing all season long, maybe they can challenge the top 4 again. But I have to be realistic. This is a predictions video. So for me, Leicester will, unfortunately for them, finish 5th once again. Now, the moment you've been waiting for, the race for the title. How is the top 4 going to finish? I genuinely believe, as I said at the start of the video, this is going to be the most exciting season we've ever had. It wouldn't surprise me if we got to the very last week of the season and all 4 of these teams still had a shot at winning the title. Could you imagine that? It'd be incredible. The second last game of the season is Man United-Chelsea. That could be a title decider. Who knows? The way I've done this is purely logical, based on the squads that these teams have got and the way they play, options they have and consistency. That's how I've chosen this top 4. I definitely think it could be very different, but I'm trying to be realistic, I'm trying to be logical, and this is the way I've gone for it. 4th place I've gone for Liverpool, and this is purely down to squad depth. If they keep their core team starting 11 fit, they will finish higher than 4th. Problem is, as we saw last season with Liverpool, you start chipping away at that team and they are nowhere near good enough. Already, it looks like they've lost Robertson for the first month of the season, and Shimikas just isn't the same level of player. He's not even close. He could surprise me, but I don't see it. If they lose Trent, they have no decent right-back cover. It looks like they've tried to fix the centre-back problem with the signing of Konate, who really looks impressive in my opinion. But again, you lose 2 of Konate, Van Dijk, Gomez. Just Matip isn't good enough. The midfield, if you lose Fabinho, the cover isn't good enough. Looks like Harvey Elliott could be getting a run in the team this year, which is good luck to him. But the overall quality of Liverpool is just not enough for me over the course of an entire season to put them any higher than 4th. Like I say, you keep everyone fit, they'll finish higher than 4th, but I have to be realistic, and I can't see it happening. 4th place for Liverpool. In 3rd place, I've gone for my team, Manchester United. I really wanted to put us 2nd, above the team I've picked for 2nd, but again, this is a predictions. I have to be realistic, and I have to look at the consistency that Manchester United have had at Old Trafford over the last couple of years, and I have to say it's not as good as the other 2 teams. The signings I'm really pleased with. Sancho could be incredible. Varane could be incredible. I still think we need a holding midfielder. If we did sign a holding midfielder before today's video, I would have us at least 2nd, maybe 1st, given the performances of Man City and Chelsea over the last couple of weeks in pre-season. But again, I have to be realistic, and for now, I just have Manchester United 2nd, Manchester United 3rd, just behind Manchester City in second. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying, really? You've not done Manchester City to win the league? But I don't see it. I don't see it. The reason I have them second above United and Liverpool is what I've just said about United and Liverpool. Liverpool don't have the squad depth. United don't have the consistency. So against all the teams from Aston Villa downwards, United and Liverpool will drop points this season, whereas Man City won't, because they have so much quality and depth that they will just beat the lesser teams in this league. And that will be enough for them to get second place. I will say this right now, if they do sign Harry Kane, they will win the league. But in my opinion, without that centre forward, that player with the killer instinct both to create and score goals, I can't see them finishing above my title winners. I think De Bruyne will play there, but I just don't see him scoring the goals that Harry Kane would. Don't get me wrong, like I said, they will beat so many teams, they will accumulate so many points, but they will lose big games without that recognised centre forward. And speaking of a team that have signed a centre forward and the team that I think will win the Premier League, I've gone for Chelsea. I just don't see past them. I've seen so many people predicting them to finish fourth at best, and I just don't think you're putting any respect on Thomas Tuchel and the team that he's built over the last few months. When he took over, they were 10th, and they finished fourth. Since Thomas Tuchel took over, they would be joint top with Man City at the top of the league. And people are seeming to forgetting that in April and May, Chelsea played Man City 3 times and beat them 3 times. If you're honestly going to tell me that I should put Man City above a team that's beaten them 3 times, you're crazy. They are the team to beat, in my opinion. Yes, they struggled last night against Villarreal, but it was hardly their first team. The one thing that's been holding them back last year was the 53 goals they scored in the Premier League. That is not a lot of goals, but I think they've solved that with Lukaku. Now, I've said on more than one occasion that I don't think Lukaku is one of the best strikers in the world, but he's someone who will put the ball in the net when you give him the right service. And playing that 3-4-3, as I spoke about with Brighton, I think it's the best formation in world football right now. He will be given so many chances by the likes of Ziyech and Werner and Mount, Chilwell from the wing-back areas, and he can do what he does for Belgium. Put his back into defenders and create chances for those players as well. They will score so many more goals with Lukaku at the top of that team. It looks like they're also still going to sign another defender. Jules Koundé's name gets mentioned a lot. If they sign him, that locks off their defence, and I just think they will have the best starting 11. And I mentioned how I think it'll be really close between these 4 teams. If the table was just these 4 teams, Chelsea would win. This Chelsea team under Tuchel wins the big games. And for me, that will be enough to see them win this Premier League. As with City, they have so much quality and depth that they'll beat the teams below, but they will win the big games this season because of how Tuchel has them set up, because of the players they have available to them. But that final little caveat, like I said, City sign Kane, City might just pip them. But for me, right now, as I'm recording this, Harry Kane is a Tottenham player, so Chelsea will win the Premier League. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, then please like it, share it, subscribe it, show it around, compare it to the other YouTubers' predictions. But for now, we'll be back soon.